guys, we have a real treat for everyone. We are going to be interviewing elite-level trainer Mr. Ronnie Shields. Before we introduce the star of the program, we do have to remind everyone that this show is brought to you by FightSaga.com. Guys, for all the latest boxing news, please go visit FightSaga.com. But without further ado, we'd like to introduce the star of the program, world-renowned fight trainer, future Hall of Famer. That's right, I said it. The one and only Mr. Ronnie Shields. Ronnie, how the heck are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Really, really great.
Oh, I tell you what, it's a busy time for you right now, brother. You have a big date with Destiny. On September 26th, your man, current WBC Middleweight champion, Jermall Charlo, is going to be defending his title against number one ranked contender and a real, a guy with a real deep amateur pedigree, very, very accomplished, Sergiy Derevyanchenko. Now, how long have you known about this fight before it was announced?
Well, of course, I knew about it before anybody else knew about it. We sit down and we discussed who our next opponent was going to be, and so we looked at all the guys, and we saw Sergiy was number one. He was number one, but you got to understand he's number one, but he wasn't mandatory. So, but Jermall said, you know what? I don't care if he's a mandatory. Let's fight him. That's the guy I want. So Jermall chose him, because, look, he's the middleweight champion of the world, and he wants to show everyone that, that he is the middleweight champion of the world, and that he's the best at 160 pounds.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, it's the fans are going to win out on this one, September 26th. We encourage everyone to purchase this pay-per-view, guys. It's going to be a fantastic event. Also going to feature his brother in the showstopper, the final fight of the evening. Jermall is going to try to unify the weight division by taking on Jeison Rosario. Now, Ronnie, I want to ask you this. Are you happy with the way this worked out? Because we've seen both Jermall and Jermall, whenever their brothers are competing in the ring, well, they get very emotional, and they're not shy about it. So are you pleased that your man is going to be taking on Sergiy Derevyanchenko before his brother competes in the ring?
Well, I think it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The guys are kind of used to being on the same card with each other now. So, it's just a fight now that, somebody has to go first. So, but, again, it's a 6-fight card. It's 2 main events. I think the public is going to really, really be the winners in this thing because there's going to be some great fights.
Absolutely. We've got 5 title fights on the card in total. Boy, it's going to be a full day of boxing starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. Boy, that's a marathon, Ronnie. Now, how did this actually come about? Who thought of this format, and why the dual main events? You've got 2 fights. Then Jermall is going to fight Sergiy Derevyanchenko. Then there's going to be a 30-minute intermission. Then we've got 2 more fights. And then finally, at the end of the night, Jermall Charlo is going to take on Jeison Rosario. Do you have any idea why it was switched to that format?
No, I have no idea. That's up to basically Al Heyman and Steven Espinosa. They 2 great minds in the sport of boxing who thought of this. So, all the credit has to go to them.
Yeah, it's a very original format, and it should be an excellent evening of boxing. Now, being a head trainer, and obviously you've dealt with so many different personalities over the last several decades, Ronnie, and boy, that's got to be a challenge because you wear so many different hats. You've got to be a mentor, a disciplinarian, a motivator, a friend. What is it like? Take us through the process. What is it like being the head trainer of a very distinctive personality like Jermall Charlo?
Well, I think that for me, I can't speak for nobody else, but for myself, I've been through a lot of fights with a lot of different fighters. So, I've been through guys with, high-strung guys and guys that just low key. So, so I kind of basically know how to handle the situation, But the most important thing is that we stay focused on what the prize is. And, and that's basically what I do. I get all my guys to focus on who's going to be in front of them, what they have to do to win, and, just to be themselves, basically. But just stay focused on the opponent and nobody else.
Indeed. How difficult is that when basically you're camped, and from what you've told me in the past, your camp is being conducted out of his house. How difficult or how easy is it to keep him from distraction in his hometown of Houston, Texas?
Well, it's really easy. Especially right now. The reason we're training him at home is so he don't have to go anywhere. And, he has a pretty big home. So, it's no distractions. Everything he needs is right there. So his focus is there, and this is the reason why I agreed to do it at his house. Because he has everything there. He doesn't have to go anywhere. And he feels comfortable. And and I think that's the most important thing is to have a fighter who feels comfortable in his surroundings. And so he's real comfortable around his wife and kids, and there's a couple of friends that's allowed to come and watch him train and help out in any way they can. So our training camp, man, this has probably been one of the best training camps we've had together, and he really feel good. He has sparring partners that staying at his home, and he feels great.
Wow, that is amazing. So he's doing the old Emmanuel Stewart trick where he's actually allowing sparring partners to stay at his house. Can you disclose, are you at liberty to disclose which sparring partners he's using to prepare for Sergiy Derevyanchenko?
Sure, there's no problem. We have a guy named Emmanuel Aline. We have another guy named Brandon Adams, and we have another guy named Ulysses Sierra. So we have three guys that we're using.
And how are they doing? Are they trying to give that same look to Jermall, applying that consistent pressure with a lot of punches thrown to the body and head?
Yeah, of course. That's what sparring partners' jobs are. And that's what we basically have to get them to mimic what we think our opponent is going to do.
That's tremendous. So how difficult has it been? Obviously, this is the big one, right? This is his very first party on the pay-per-view platform, right? And this is quite possibly, and what critics are pointing at, as the toughest test of his entire professional career up to this point. Are you guys viewing it that way going into this very pivotal fight for Jermall?
Well, I think for us, man, really and truly, all fights are tough. People keep thinking because maybe you might have fought one or two guys in the division that were really good, that makes you a really, really tough fighter. But in all actuality, it's about styles. Styles make fights in this sport that we're in. So, with Derevyanchenko, he comes forward. He's right there to be hit. It's not like he's the best defensive guy in the world because he's not. So we'll have to see. We're going to have to see if this is our toughest fight or not. If Jermall goes in there and knock him out, people are going to make excuses. This guy was here, so this guy was there. So we view every fight that's in front of us as the toughest fight that we've ever fought.
Indeed. That's a very, very intelligent approach. Ronnie, couple months ago, very dear friend of ours, Mr. Willie Savannah, at age 85, passed away, and he meant so much to the boxing community in and around the Houston, Texas area. Talk about what his mentoring and tutelage and his friendship meant to you, as well as some of the other fighters in and around the Houston area, and how this affects your career in reflection moving forward.
Well, when I was an amateur fighter, and I know, of course, I was living in Port Arthur, Texas, and I met Mr. Savannah at a fight, and we kept in contact, and and I kind of outgrew, my city, and so we talked, and he said, you may have more opportunities moving to Houston with different sparring and, a lot more sparring and just different fights that you can get and stuff like that. So I did make that move to Houston. And matter of fact, I lived with him for the first 3 months I was down here. And then after my amateur career, I turned professional, and of course, he became my manager. So, but him and I had a very, very close relationship. And, we were together every day, He was the person to take me running when I had to go run. And, of course, we at the gym every single day, And, he was like a father to me, and everybody knew it, how close we were. And we continued that throughout, and once I quit boxing, I started training fighters, and then he would come to me and say, hey, I got these fighters. Won't you come take a look at them and see maybe you're interested in training them? One of them was Juan Diaz, who we went on to win a few world championships together. And, we was all a family, And I spoke to him maybe about 10 days before he passed. He was just a guy, man, that wanted to see everybody do good, And you should see all the kids, man, that he helped not just in the sport of boxing, but in life. He didn't care if a kid wanted to become a boxer. That wasn't his thing. His thing was to help anybody he could to do better in his life. And this is, he was just an icon in Texas, in Houston especially. And everybody knew him. Everybody knew him. If he went to a fight, it could have been anywhere in the United States. And everybody was going to know who he was because, he was just that kind of person that, he made friends with him easily. And, and if he could help with anything, that was him. He was that guy, And so many people loved him. And, and he's going to truly be missed here, especially at his gym, and then just in the sport of boxing. People, I've been getting so many calls. Some people just finding out that he passed away, and they just can't believe it, So, but, I speak to his wife occasionally, and, a lot, I got a couple of their fighters at my gym now training with me, and of course he called me up and asked me would I specifically train these two fighters that I have at my gym right now, and one of them is his grandson, and the other one is just a fighter that he felt was going to be a good fighter. So, I got those guys at my gym now. They both are amateur fighters right now, but in his memory, we're going to continue, with the process that he wanted them to take. So, so as time goes on and these guys turn professional, you're going to definitely, hear and know who these guys are because they were definitely a part of Mr. Willie Savannah.
That's beautiful, Ronnie. Very, very well stated, sir. Now, you look at the lineage that you've received. What sense of responsibility and duty do you actually feel? Because you've learned and you've been mentored by some truly great men. The late, great Georgie Benton, Willie Savannah, Emmanuel Stewart. What does that mean to you in your road ahead and moving forward, and what responsibility does that bestow upon you?
Well, I just try to do the same thing that they did for myself. I try to pass knowledge on to the next generation of trainers that's out there. So, it's just something that I think that was meant to be. You just don't hold the knowledge all to yourself. You have to pass it on. So I think, and that's what we're here to do. So that's what we're going to continue to do.
Well, you're doing a tremendous job, Ronnie. We commend you for all of your work in and out of the Houston area with all of your amateurs and pros, and we look forward to great things coming out of your gym. But first and foremost, here it goes. Are you ready to play your very popular radio segment, Fact or Fiction?
Let's do it.
Okay, first one, Fact or Fiction, Ronnie. Jermall Charlo will accomplish something that Triple G and Danny Jacobs couldn't do in the ring, and that's stop Derevyanchenko within the distance on September 26th. Fact or fiction?
That's definitely a fact.
Can you predict the shot, Ronnie?
No,
we don't want to give anything away, brother. Gonna have to tune in, guys. Purchase this pay-per-view on September 26th to find out how Ronnie's going to write it up in the war room. I tell you what, so that leads us to our next Fact or Fiction. Fact or Fiction. Jermall's brother will unify the 154-pound weight division by defeating the very big Jason Rosario on September 26th. Fact or fiction, Ronnie?
I think that's a fact also.
Boy, that's a tough fight, but that's a great one for the fans, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's going to be a great fight. I've been watching that kid Rosario for a long time, and he finally got himself together when he fought Junior Williams. And, the thing about Jermall, he has a lot of experience. He's been in there with some tough fights, in a lot of tough fights. And, I think it's all going to pay off for him. And I think Rosario is a tough fighter, but at the same time, I think Jermall is just a little bit better.
Yeah, boy, it's going to be a tremendous showstopper on September 26th. Do you think maybe his two fights with the big punching, very big-bodied Tony Harrison will help him prepare for what to expect in the ring against Jason Rosario?
Yeah, but Jason Rosario is a different fight. So he's a different fighter. The thing about Tony Harrison can box. He's he's from the crunk background. So
that's right.
Boxer punches. So and he was definitely that. But Rosario, he's a guy that he loves to come forward with punches. Always in great shape. So but he's definitely gonna get Jermall's attention. But I think in the later rounds, though, I think Jermall start picking him apart, and then I think Jermall will stop him.
Wow, and that's interesting. I tell you what, it's going to be a tremendous night of boxing, September 29th. Next one, Ronnie, fact or fiction, Deontay Wilder will indeed elect to pass on the immediate rematch clause he has with Tyson Fury and compete in a tune-up instead. Fact or fiction?
That's a tough one, but I'm going to say fiction. I mean, just knowing Deontay, he just felt he had a bad night. And I think he feels that he can really knock Tyson Fury out. So I think that's fiction.
In your professional opinion, Ronnie, if you were his co-trainer, what would you advise to change? What would you do to change his strategy in his in camp before this third fight?
Well, I've never been in camp with him, so that's kind of hard to say. But just looking just being on the outside looking in, I just think he has to realize he can't wrestle with a guy like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury put his weight on him this last time. He didn't know what to do. You have to learn. You have to know how to get away from these big guys when they lean on you. And that's something you have to do in the gym. And that's something his trainers are going to have to really focus on when Tyson Fury lean on him. What do they have to do to get away from that? And stop looking for one punch.
Brilliant. Well, you look forward to hopefully that materializing sooner rather than later. Next one, facts or fiction. Dillian Whyte will indeed get knocked out again in the rematch with Alexander Povetkin on November 14th.
I think that's fiction. I think he learned from the first fight that you don't take anybody lightly. You could say he was so confident in the first few rounds, and he just, he was hitting Povetkin at will, and then all of a sudden, just one mistake, and that's the thing in the heavyweight division. You really have to really be leery about the mistakes you make in a fight, and he ran into that left uppercut, and but I just think next time, he's going to be really. He's going to stay focused and not lose his focus like he did on this time. And, I really think he's going to come back and win.
Well, it should be interesting. Hopefully they're able to secure that date, November 14th, for the eventual rematch. Just a couple more, Ronnie. Teofimo Lopez, fact or fiction, will pull off the mild upset and defeat Vasyl Lomachenko by knockout on October 17th. Fact or fiction?
Fiction. No way. No way that's going to happen. I think
Vasyl's just too good, huh?
Yeah, he's in the top 2-3 fighters in the world, and I just don't see Lomachenko losing. I just don't see it.
Yeah, boy, it's a tall order for anyone, especially someone. Now, very quickly, do you think maybe Teofimo Lopez and his father are jumping the gun here and taking this fight too soon in his career?
No, I mean, look, I don't think so. He has enough fights to where he can challenge. But, I mean, he's a fighter, so, and he has the confidence that it takes. But I just think Lomachenko, he just have too many skills for him right now. And I don't think he's jumping the gun, but at the same time, I just think Lomachenko is like one of the top 3 fighters in the world right now. And I just don't see it. I just don't see the upset.
Indeed. Well, just a few more. Fact or fiction, Errol Spence will indeed look like the truth once again and defeat Danny Garcia handily on November 21st. Fact or fiction?
I think that's a fact. I think with Errol Spence, he's a fighter, and if he was really worried about him coming back after an accident, then if he was worried about it, he would have took a non-title fight just to see where he was. But obviously, all it did was fuel the fire, because now I'm just seeing him. He done changed his whole perspective on boxing. Now he got his weight down early. He's training like he's never trained before, because now, keep it on, lit the fire under him, saying different things about him. And now he wants to prove everybody wrong and show them that he's still the truth, that he's the best welterweight in the world. And I think he's going to be even better than he was before.
Now, very quickly, Ronnie, your prediction for the amount of pay-per-view purchases on November 21st between Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia. How well does it do on the market, seeing that this is Errol's first fight back since the accident?
Well, I think a lot of people are going to tune in and watch it because I think that, number one, Errol is pretty known throughout the world now as one of the best fighters in the sport. And also, Danny Garcia is known to be one of the best fighters in the sport also. And I think people are really curious to see, good fights. So, when you have two of the best welterweights in the world fighting each other, I think you can't help but put it on pay-per-view. So, I think a lot of people will tune in. I really and truly believe that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very successful night for PBC and Fox as well. It's a tremendous marquee matchup. Last couple, Ronnie. Canelo will indeed part ways with DAZN and compete for PBC and Al Heyman in 2021. How do you like that? Fact or fiction?
Well, I think it's fiction. But he's having so much trouble with DAZN right now because they don't feel that they should honor the contract now because of the COVID-19. So, I don't know. That's a hard thing. That's a hard thing to say right now because, you just don't know if DAZN is going to come up and say, you know what, he got a contract, we just go honor the contract. But at the same time, they losing so much money right now because they can't put on fights, and I think they just want him to be an honorable guy and say, you know what, you guys are right. We know you lost a lot of subscriptions to, and they lost, and I know they're losing a lot of money because they can't put on boxing like they want to, and or like they was doing before this pandemic. So, I guess as in a business world, they have to sort it out to say, you know what, I know Canelo side has to look at their side and vice versa. And, he haven't been fighting either. So, and you can't count his money that he's made before because that's not business. You have to look at the business as of what it is right now. And right now, they really paid him a lot of money, but, he has to say, well, you know what, I think they'll probably have to work out a deal to say, you know what, okay, if so many people come back and pay to watch you fight, and they get so many buys, then they could pay him that money. But if not, he has to agree that if it's not that many buys, then you have to accept only so much money, And I think they'll work it out. This is you're talking about guys that have hundreds of millions of dollars that got DAZN, and but they're business people. I think they'll make him understand that okay, if we do so many buys, you'll get paid your original amount. If we don't do so many buys, you got to say, okay, I have to take less money because people can't afford it. And I think they'll work that out.
Yeah, it's a feasible solution that you just proposed. Now, wouldn't it be something, Ronnie, because it made big news earlier this year and last year that De La Hoya and company made a proposal, sent a quote-unquote proposal to Jermall to fight in 2019, but do you think maybe if Jermall scores a huge hit on September 26th, that they'll send him a much better proposal in 2021 for a huge event with Canelo in Minute Maid Park. What are your thoughts on that? And how does that play out, brother?
I think after Jermall wins, then definitely they have to look at it because they was looking at Sergiy also. They was trying to get him, but we just got him before they did. But look, the proposal they made last time, I have no idea what that was. They spoke to his manager, who is Al Heyman, and nobody has gotten to Al and asked him what that proposal was, and so I don't know. My job is to train him and to train him to whoever they put in front of him. That's my job. My job, although Al calls me and asks me what I think about certain fighters and stuff like that, and but as far as the business is concerned, he handles that part of the business. So, but I know after this fight that they definitely looking for opponents, and when Jermall does win this fight, and they definitely should call. They know who to call. That they know to call Al and make a proposal. So, I mean,
Minute Maid Park, Ronnie, home of the Astros. That would be a wonderful event for boxing.
It's hard to go to Minute Maid when you're in a pandemic.
Oh, geez. Yeah, well, let's hope the vaccination, or let's hope everything ends very quickly, sooner rather than later. But I tell you what, last one, Ronnie, very last one, Fact or Fiction. Fishnet's De La Hoya will make a comeback to the sport at age 47 in 2021. How do you like that, brother? Fact or fiction?
That could be a fact because, look, he sees Mike Tyson, he sees Roy Jones, he sees Evander Holyfield, and I feel he's younger, and he is younger than those guys. And he's saying, you know what, why not? I think he will, because it's been rumored even before all of that maybe he was going to do a comeback. So and that's even before all these other guys start saying that they was going to come back. It was rumored that he was going to probably make a return. But it depends. I know Mike Tyson and them are doing charity fights and exhibitions. I don't think Oscar will do an exhibition. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I think he really wants to come back and fight. So we'll see.
Well, I tell you what, Ronnie, you just concluded Fact or Fiction. Thank you so much, brother. I tell you what, we're at the end of your segment. Thank you so much for gracing us and sharing the air with us on this fine Thursday evening. Do you have any parting shots for all of our listening audience?
Oh, yeah, just continue to watch the sport of boxing. We really have some really, really good fights coming up real soon for everybody. Enjoyment, and keep supporting the sport.
Guys, he's elite-level trainer Ronnie Shields. Thank you so much for visiting with us this afternoon, sir. Well, I tell you what, you've got a busy schedule. We'll catch up with you hopefully before the big fight on September 26th. Guys, you don't want to miss out on this one. It's going to be a tremendous evening of boxing. Ronnie, thank you so much. God bless you, brother, and best of luck to you coming up in just a couple of weeks, sir.
Thank you.
Guys, that was elite-level trainer Ronnie Shields. I tell you what, it's so good to share the air with him once again. It just feels like old times, doesn't it? Well, I tell you what, speaking of feeling like old times, it's about time we get the editor-in-chief of FightSaga.com back on the air. Guys, it's been a couple weeks since we featured him on the show, but guys, it's always a pleasure to share the air with this gentleman, the always knowledgeable Mr. Lee Cleveland. Lee, how are you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing great, Joseph. Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you just fine, sir.
Dr. Herron, it's always great to be on the show, man.
Any thoughts? Any thoughts about what you heard, man, from our very good friend Ronnie Shields? That was a very intriguing interview, wasn't it?
It certainly was, and the doctor, Herron, handled it very well. One thing, doctor of boxing, like the Povetkin fight. I was a little surprised about the Povetkin rematch. As you know, I've been a big. I'm not necessarily a fan of Povetkin, but I respect him. His skills. I've watched his side since he was an amateur coming up, the Olympics, great amateur pedigree. I watched all his fights, early on with FightSaga, with Vlad, etc. The fight was fire, and I think that he sort of dismisses Povetkin's chances. I think Povetkin's a better fighter now. Now, hey, a month ago, 3 weeks ago, we went on, and I said, hey, this guy's a live dog. He might probably knock this guy out. Now that he's knocked him out, I'm saying people keep going to the well. I don't know why people keep going to the well, Joseph. They keep going to that well. Huey Fury, you got that long list of names now. Then it's a big 4-0. Keep going to the well and going to the well. And I am actually sort of a fan now because I wasn't before, but this guy's got really good skills. His record was like 298-7. Hit all his losses avenged from the amateurs. He's got excellent, if you know what you're watching, he's got excellent timing. He's got very good punching power. That's not mind-blowing punching power, but damn good punching power. Not mind-blowing speed, but he's pretty quick. But what I like about him is his movement, his sense of range, timing. Very good. He fights like he fights like one of these guys that just knows what's up. He knows what you're going to do, and he's like 3 steps ahead of you. So I think Povetkin's a better fighter all around. As I said before the first fight, he's going to drop the first 3 rounds. But once he figures this guy out, it's going to be over. And that's when I think Povetkin's a better fighter. People looking at his age and maybe looking at some other things, I don't know. But I'm a believer, man. And I said it before the first fight, man. And guess what happened? So
that's
this
right.
guy, defied the odds. But there weren't really odds. There weren't real odds because this guy's a better fighter. So he's not really defying the odds. I think.
So why do you think, Lee? Why do you think the odds makers were so far off? They actually had going into the fight, the day of the fight, final odds were 4-1. Dillian Whyte was a minus 400 going into the fight, with Alexander Povetkin being a very shockingly wide plus 300 or a 3-1 betting underdog.
We talked about this. I got a little hole in my bedroom. I hit my head on the wall so many times I didn't bet on this fight. We talked about this. I should have bet on this fight. But that little voice in your head is like, bet on this fight, man. Bet on bet. Like, no. Maybe these guys are right. But no, they're wrong, and I'm right. Yeah. That's just, I have no idea. He has a better pedigree. So that he's a better pedigree. The only thing he doesn't have is the age, the quote unquote age advantage. Because
when you think about it, his only losses are to Anthony Joshua and Vladimir Klitschko. And there's no shame in that, brother.
and Doctor, he had a great show in both.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about the Vladimir one. That was a bit messy.
He rocked Joshua a few times. I mean, that was like a touch-and-go fight until he knocked him out.
Agreed.
6 rounds, 8 rounds, or whatever, but that was like going back and forth. He tagged him a few times. It was an impressive win for Joshua. That was his best win, in my opinion. But then you can go back to Klitschko. Klitschko had so much respect for him that it wasn't a real fight. He grabbed.
No, he made it an unwatchable fight. I think that's how Max Kellerman classified it during the live airing, right? He called it an unwatchable fight. And he was right. It looked more like WWE. Goodness gracious.
You don't want to throw down with that. You don't want to throw down with that. You don't want to throw down with him. So you that's where you have like the Willie Pep moves of like back in the day. Willie Pep, Stanley Sadler. Willie Pep was a dirty fighter, great fighter, but a butt in the clinch, a foot on the toe. He would do anything and everything. And
the old
Vlad,
foot stomp.
Vlad did the foot stomp, the butt in the tackle. He had added some new wrinkles to that. And I'm sure Willie Pep, looking from heaven, will be very proud.
Well, speaking of body slamming, Lee, listen to this. Speaking of body slamming, brother, it was just reported Triple H, right, the current commissioner of WWE, says that Tyson Fury versus Drew McIntyre, right, will break WWE records on pay-per-view. Your thoughts on this being a realistic option for Tyson Fury during the pandemic?
Yeah, highly realistic, because obviously the pandemic, people are strapped for funds. Yeah, I mean, Tyson Fury is a charismatic guy. I think that the difference is, Joseph, Fury versus Joshua will go to boxing thing. Okay? Fury versus whoever in WWE will get some boxing fans and all the WWE fans. And a lot of Tyson Fury fans who are WWE fans, but there's Tyson Fury fans. So that makes sense. Of course, that'll do very well, man. That's very
as long as they can't sell tickets at this time, and as long as Anthony Joshua is busy with Kubrat Pulev, and that's tentatively scheduled for December 12th now, right?
Right.
And as long as Deontay Wilder stays in that groundhog hole, I think this is exactly what Tyson Fury is going to do. I think he's going to take the safe route and do a little vaudeville and increase his mainstream attraction. That's exactly what I think he's going to do. But I tell you what, going back to Dillian Whyte versus Alexander Povetkin, I mentioned this on the Tuesday night show, and I want to get your thoughts on this. You're a former fighter, and so I want to get your thoughts on Dillian Whyte saying, no, you know what, I don't have to change anything. I was winning the fight. In fact, it was a much easier fight than I thought. And I think maybe that's why it ended the way it did, because I took it too lightly. But no, I'm not going to change a damn thing. I was winning the fight easily. I was putting it to him, so there's no need to change anything in this camp. Your thoughts on his, very surprising sentiment?
Mixed emotions. I mean, he made in his mind he has a point. And he was clearly winning the fight. But again, he's underestimating Povetkin. And what might happen again is the same thing happens, but maybe it doesn't come in round 5. It comes in round 9, 10, 11, 12. This guy knocked you flat. Like, this guy This wasn't a split decision. This wasn't a controversial decision. This wasn't Pacquiao versus Marquez 3, where you have one side of the one side. This guy knocked you to like Venus, okay? So you gotta give him credit for that. Like, this guy put you through. You were seeing some extraterrestrial stuff. So now, they don't like to be just saying that, Joseph. Just could be lying with the Povetkin camp. So maybe he's going to add some new wrinkles in training, but he says this. So his word gets back to the Povetkin camp, and he's not going to do anything different, et cetera, et cetera.
You know what? I think he very well might just be having this kind of bravado moment just to save face, because I think he is quite embarrassed after looking back, because Cassius did a very good interview with him on IFL TV. And he said, well, when did you finally look back at the fight? And he said, well, I looked back at it the next day, and, yeah, I just got caught. I mean, and it was a stupid mistake. He said, 99 times out of 100, I'm going to block that shot in the gym, and I just had a mental lapse. And I'm looking back at his career, and I'm thinking, no, 99 times out of 100, you don't block that shot, because every single time you've been hurt, you got stopped by Anthony Joshua by an uppercut, you got floored by Oscar Rivas by an uppercut, and you just got knocked out by Alexander Povetkin with the same uppercut. Is he going to be able to fix this hole in his defense by November 14th?
I have no idea, but I do know this. Like Povetkin's been around. Not only does he have a long amateur pedigree, now he's got a long pro pedigree. He's fought the best of the best. If Dillian comes in defending against the uppercut, Povetkin will do something else. That's what a knowledgeable fighter does. Like, that's what all-around good fighter. Like, Alexander Povetkin doesn't get enough credit. And I've always said that he's an all-around great fighter. So yeah, you defend against the uppercut. He's gonna hit you. He's gonna find some openings. He's gonna hit you with the right hand. He's gonna hit you with the left hook. He's gonna slip. He's gonna find his angles. He's gonna get you one way or the other. The only way I think Dillian Whyte needs to win ugly. And Huey Fury survived by fighting ugly. He won the first 3 rounds, and then the next 9 I gave to Povetkin.
Indeed.
He didn't knock him out, but he fought ugly. He was awkward. It was just a messy, unaesthetically pleasing fight, as you would say. But Povetkin dominated that last 9 rounds. So what Dillian Whyte has to do is make this an unaesthetically pleasing fight, but win, which Huey Fury didn't. Okay? But, no. I'm not really buying all this, but we'll see what happens, man.
No. Oh, that's funny. I tell you what, Lee.
I told you the sky's a live dog.
I know, man. And I'm so surprised that there were so many people who were shocked by this outcome. Because, yeah, we had discussed it in the weeks preceding the event. And, yeah, we saw this coming a mile away. It's very surprising. Now, I'll say this. We have to shift gears a little bit because we're running out of time. But, Lee, let's talk about Canelo versus DAZN. And I think Coach Ronnie, seeing that he's always on the side of the fighters, I was a little surprised, weren't you, that he actually said, you know what, Canelo should do the right thing and, well, work with DAZN on this. And he should, and he even worded it in do the right thing. Were you a bit surprised when you heard Coach Ronnie actually say that?
No, not really. Do the right thing is work with DAZN. No, not really, because of look what's going on. There was like a major depression, the pandemic. People are losing jobs. People are being evicted left and right. Losing their homes. The money isn't there. So, for a lot of reasons, it's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect Canelo. It's going to affect all the boxers. It's going to affect all the sports, including NFL. It's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect guys high up, like your Warren Buffett, Bill Gates. It's going to affect everybody.
So why do you think Canelo is actually being this stubborn then and taking this to this level, to this stage where it's going to be guaranteed judge-ordered arbitration? I don't see it resolving any other way.
Because of your, like your friend, the late great Hall of Famer, got these urban advisors, right? He's got these urban advisors that.
Oh, good old Don Jargon and his urban advisor theory. I love it.
Usually they're from the hood in the U.S., looks like Detroit, but they're also urban advisors in Mexico. They're all over the place. And I think that's what it is paying. You find that contract, get the money. But as you know as a business owner, as I know as a business owner, you can't draw up blood from China. The money's not there, it's not there. It's not there because of a worldwide pandemic, a problem. So this isn't the zone. This isn't the zone misguiding or mishandling funds or whatever. This is a situation where it's affecting everybody. Of course you're not. I mean, it's like the Great Depression. I mean, of course you're not. I mean, you still want to get that $35 million paycheck? Shit. I mean, you better fight God or somebody if you want to get,
Well, and this is my retort then, Mr. Cleveland. You look at ESPN Plus, right? That services, every sport, including boxing as well as MMA.
Of course.
They have, standing strong, over 11 million subscribers to ESPN Plus. Mm-hmm. And you look at the amount of people purchasing the very first, I think, 251 UFC, 1.3 million, they didn't seem to be affected by any of this. Why is it such a huge disparity in numbers between DAZN and ESPN Plus?
Well, for starters, ESPN Plus, they're charging, half, a third, $4.99, number one. Mm-hmm. But number two is, you have to remember, all these millions of dollars, they're putting on multiple sports events. They've got, look, I'm not an expert on what they have, but they've got boxing, MMA, maybe soccer, maybe these other sports, tennis, I don't know. It's not just boxing and MMA. So you can't say, okay, 11 million subscribers this month paid $5 each. Okay, and then you have, but then look at the events they had. Boxing wasn't the only event that they had, right? They had numerous events. Again, I don't really know. I think they have soccer, maybe whatever, but no, it still doesn't equate. It still doesn't work out. We're in a pandemic. There are a lot of people, I'm sure, that have dropped their prescriptions because they lost their jobs. Period.
Yeah, this is a tough one. It's going to be very interesting to see.
$5 a month, $4.99 a month.
Yeah, $4.99 a month. That's right. Compared to $10 a month with DAZN, and then you've got no events really happening. Right. Whereas ESPN, they've been featuring events now for the past several months. Right.
But not a whole lot of big names.
No. So, but still, it's been a frequent amount of events where they didn't lose any subscribers. And UFC and Top Rank, they were the first ones back.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Well,
I think that I can guarantee you that ESPN at the end of the month when they tab those credit cards, I bet you a lot of those bounce. I can tell you, I bet you a lot of those bounce. Maybe bounce isn't the right terminology, but you know what I'm saying. When they tag those credit cards, I bet you a lot of those were rejected with insufficient funds because people have, lost their jobs or their homes or not. Well, maybe homes, but especially lost their jobs. They're just like, hey, it's not that much money, but my credit card is over. I bought food for my family, so I'm down. I'm in the red. $50 on my credit card, and then ESPN goes to take that $4.99, and it's not there because you've overdrawn $50 on your credit card. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I tell you what, getting away from that part of it and getting back to the boxing, what are the chances of Canelo actually terminating his relationship, ending his relationship with DAZN? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think he's going to, like Ronnie said, do the right thing and work everything out with DAZN? You think he's going to finally snap and realize that it's in his best interest?
Right. I have no idea what these urban advisors are telling him. I have no idea how much leverage and credence he gives these guys.
Well, it's pretty obvious.
Urban advisors.
Well, Lee, it's pretty obvious that Golden Boy Promotions, I think this is the genesis of their, breakdown in relationship with Canelo Alvarez, is because they've been, kind of sympathizing and siding with DAZN, trying to make them happy as well, because it's in their best interest. It's in everyone's best interest. And I think, we've seen now that Golden Boy Promotions really doesn't seem to have a very strong influence anymore with their superstar client, Canelo Alvarez. Do you think this is a real problem moving forward?
Yeah, I think it is a real problem. Because Oscar knows. Oscar is, he's been in some trouble, but he knows he's a good businessman. He's smart. He knows. I think he's been in the business for a long time now. I think Golden Boy, he's had some good people surrounding him. They know the deal. They understand. But, and I don't want to, I don't want to put people down, but I just don't think that, I think Canelo's got urban advisors. And, again, they're everywhere. They're not just, Don Chargan told you about it. They're in the hood, they're in Detroit, but they're everywhere. So he's got some Mexican urban advisors like, hey, man, no, don't let them do this to you, man. They're saying that in Spanish. Don't let them do this to you, man. No, we ain't taking that. We ain't taking that shit.
Yeah, Don always said it's so easy. It's so easy to get into the head of a fighter. And all you have to do is say, hey, how much you making your last fight? Oh, X amount of dollars. Are you serious? That's it? And all of a sudden, it gets the wheels turning inside that fighter's brain.
Right.
Don said it's that easy. He's seen it happen hundreds and hundreds of times.
Right. The fighter's always going to think that they're taking advantage of me. He's always going to think that. But we have a worldwide pandemic. Canelo needs to open the windows, man. Sometimes you're blind. He's wearing that. We have a serious problem. Try to go to a gym in Mexico. If they're open. Social distancing.
Well, Coach Gogi is officially, Coach Gogi was supposed to open his gym in Leon, Mexico several months ago, and it had to be officially pushed back. He's only able to train a specific amount of fighters per week, and that's on an individual basis. He can't open his gym completely, right? But I tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, and we'll keep everyone informed as soon as we hear something. I've got all of my friends, all of my contacts with their ears and eyes open, so they'll let me know as soon as we hear something, guys. So I tell you what, let's move on to the next course of action because, we are running out of time. I can't believe how quickly time is eluding us. So, Frank Warren, brother. Now, this is something that I find a little perplexing, and this is very dangerous. And I want to get your take on this, Cleveland, because you're very knowledgeable of the process in nurturing and cultivating a blue-chip prospect, right? Frank Warren stated that, look, if Anthony Joshua vacates the title in order to fight Tyson Fury in the big money fight rather than honoring the mandatory challenger of the WBO, which is Alexander Usyk, my guy is the number 2 contender, and I have no problem sticking him in the ring to fight for the WBO heavyweight title with Alexander Usyk, Daniel Dubois. I have no problem sticking Triple D in with Alexander Usyk. After 16 professional fights, are you kidding me? Lee, what are your thoughts on this? This could be, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, brother, but this could be potentially catastrophic for this young fighter's career.
Yeah, I think he's blowing smoke. as a promoter. He's blowing smoke. I think he's talking about. I mean, they all talk shit. No, I mean Dubois is a great prospect. He's got a lot of potential. Usyk is about the last, literally, like the last guy. Like maybe Usyk, Fury. I mean, there are a lot of fighters I'd take Povetkin, I'd take Whyte. Like, Usyk's not the last guy you want to really put him in the ring with at this moment. He's young, he's a little green, great promise. He's talking shit. But if he's not talking shit, now he's talking shit, but let's just say it's serious, then he's crazy. But I think that he's doing this, I mean, because, it's immediate, Joseph. He wants to say, hey, we're not scared. We'll fight Usyk. But when the rubber meets the road, they don't want that fight. Come on now. Unless it's for a title. It's for a title. I don't see him fighting Usyk, no.
No, I don't see it either, brother.
Give me kills. Give me kills.
Yeah, honestly, that's just too much, and that's just too much to ask, right? Way too much. But I'll say this, brother. I'll say this. I think you're right. Frank Warren is just being a promoter, and he's just talking to the media like as if he's got the utmost confidence in his man. But yeah, I think that's a recipe for disaster. Sticking him in the ring, his young Black Diamond prospect in the ring with a real technical magician in the ring, like Alexander Usyk. I think I don't think he's
33.
Yeah,
he carved him up like he carved him up and probably stop him.
Yep.
In the mid to later rounds.
Yeah, that's just silly. So I tell you what, let's shift gears, brother. We've got several more things to cover and just a limited amount of time left.
Yes, sir.
Gervonta Davis. Well, I tell you what, it's really nice to see, and this is the biggest fight of his career by far, right? It's going to be his very first stint on the pay-per-view platform, October 24th. He's going to be taking on former three-division world champion Leo Santa Cruz and current WBO 130-pound title holder, right? So rather than actually doing the customary training camp in Baltimore or Atlanta, he actually flew out to Vegas, relocated to get away from all the home distractions. And he is currently under the tutelage of Floyd Mayweather Jr. And not only that, he's actually sparring with middleweight Luis Arias. Now, is that wise, in your opinion, Lee? I mean, in his preparation for a guy like Leo Santa Cruz, is that a wise move, sparring with a 160-pounder like Luis Arias?
In some cases, absolutely. Depends on what he wants to work on. But, yeah, you've got this guy like Arias throwing these bombs. He wants to be ready for Santa Cruz's bombs. But Santa Cruz doesn't play. So you get this much bigger guy, stronger, bigger guy. He's conditioning his body to accept those power punches. So when he gets in there, he's like, when he fights Santa Cruz, he's like, you know what, hell, I've been sparring with a guy that's 160, that's elite, okay? Your punches aren't going to affect me as much. I've been sparring with a guy that's 160. And number two, I'm sparring with a guy that's taller than me, that's ranger than me, that's got that longer reach. I'm used to this. I'm used to that long reach. I'm going to adapt. I will do what I have to do to win this fight. So, no, I mean, he's not Arias isn't the only guy he spars. But, yeah, that's what guys do. That a lot of those little guys, they spar with bigger guys to get themselves ready for another little guy. Because if it's like little guy versus little guy, and if little guy is sparring with big guys, then little guy can probably handle the punches of the other little guy when they get in the ring.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'm just worried about, do you think it's, because it's going to be completely different timing. Obviously, Leo Santa Cruz is going to be much faster. And Gervonta Davis is Yeah, but I'll tell you this. One thing that I've been very pleased with seeing. One thing I've been very pleased with is seeing Floyd Mayweather Jr. be, I couldn't believe it, being the humble mentor in this. There are shots of him actually tying the shoelaces of Gervonta Davis, working the pads with him, working on technique, working on looking at fight tape, coaching him on strategy. Can you believe that Floyd Mayweather is taking the humble approach and being the Chiefs' second here?
In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I'm going to lean towards yes. Floyd is so passionate about boxing. He's a zillionaire. He's always talking about his money and this and that. He puts on this show, all these cars. It's hard to see him in that role. But at the same time, he's accomplished all he can in boxing, right? He's going to want to be the best trainer in the world. He's going to charge the most of any trainer in the world. But, to do that, he's got to humble himself. And if he's ready, maybe he's ready. I think, we've had the death of his baby's mama. We've had the death of his uncle, Roger Mayweather. Maybe these recent deaths and all this other stuff have put life in perspective. It could be like a real sort of rocky situation here, where maybe he becomes that really good trainer, who laces up the gloves, gets spit on him, gets blood on him, ties shoes, all because he wants to be the best. All because he wants to be the best, and because he's so he is very competitive. On one hand, I can see it, but on the other hand, you've got to get rid of that fighter mentality. You've got to get rid of this. You're not in your 20s or 30s anymore. Going out to strip clubs every night, and then everyone's going to report on you. You know that. A fighter doesn't want to see his trainer. They look up to their trainer. They don't want to see a trainer that goes out every night throwing $100 bills at strippers. Like that. I'm not saying he can't party. I'm just saying something has to change, and maybe something is changing.
Well, yeah, it seems he seems to be taking this as seriously as he possibly can, and it looks like it's paying dividends for both men. Floyd looks to be in tremendous shape, and I will say this: are you a bit surprised that Floyd Mayweather, when he's working pads with Gervonta Davis, isn't doing the infamous Roger Mayweather
What do you mean, the infamous Roger Mayweather
mitt routine?
Oh, they make Floyd look great. I don't know.
No, he's not. He is working with his mitts on combinations that you're actually going to use in a prize fight.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
I can see Floyd being a hard ass. I can see him being a real hard ass. And difficult to work with. He's a hard ass and probably very difficult to work with. But if you can find that right science, find that right chemistry, he's gold. Because no one has knowledge like Floyd. That's just. Can you? I'm not sure if anyone on earth, even Freddie Roach, who has the knowledge of the boxing knowledge of Floyd Mayweather. It's all about communicating that knowledge. That's
no one who's still alive.
Guys like Joe Louis, he's not alive. Maybe to some degree Tyson or Holyfield, but there were heavyweights for the most part. They're not going to have, because, Floyd fought it in multiple divisions. So as heavyweights, They're not going to have all that knowledge, right? It's all about that discipline. But if he can wrap it up and get serious, I think he'd be a great trainer. If he can humble himself. And that's not going to be easy to do.
Well, so far so good. If you listen to all the reports from Gervonta Davis, he couldn't be any more pleased and insists that Floyd Mayweather during this camp has been more hands-on than his head trainer. So So I tell you what, I look for great things from Gervonta Davis, and I think one of the reasons why he's taking this so seriously is because, one, he had so much trouble making weight and was seemingly running out of gas in the, championship round of his last contest against Yuriorkis Gamboa, and this is the biggest fight of his career. I think that's one of the reasons why both men are working so diligently for this common goal, and that's going to be his very first pay-per-view stint on October 24th. I'll tell you what, let's shift gears a little bit. Lee, did you happen to see Jose Carlos Ramirez defeat Victor Postal last Saturday night on ESPN? He struggled a bit, and I don't think that's any indictment as to how proficient or how good Jose Ramirez is. No one looks good against Victor Postal, not even Josh Taylor. But a lot of people are claiming now, oh, man, he's going to get killed by Josh Taylor. Are they overreacting? Are they jumping the gun? And do you think Jose Ramirez is ready for this huge unification bout against Josh Taylor?
Absolutely. They're jumping the gun. He is definitely ready. He's ready. I'm not saying he's going to win. I don't have a prediction yet. We can talk about predictions prior to the fight. But he's definitely ready. Victor Postal is a hell of a fighter.
It's hard to look good against Victor Postal. I mean, Terrence Crawford defeated him. Josh Taylor defeated him, and they struggled at times. They struggled quite a bit at times. Wasn't an easy fight for either man. So I don't know why anyone expected Josh Ramirez to have an easy day at the office against Victor Postal.
This was a big fight, Joseph. This was a big fight. This wasn't a showcase. From my understanding, this was a big fight. This wasn't a showcase. This is not a showcase fight. If people expecting a showcase, well, you didn't get it, but why did you expect it? It's not a showcase. Victor Postal is a bad man, and Ramirez came out, but he's a tough guy. And you have those guys in boxing in all weight classes, Joseph. These guys are very tough. They're very hard to get I think it was huge. The win over Postal was huge because it says a lot. It says that, hey, I can beat a guy that is one of these guys, what do you call them, discouragers, or I can beat a guy that makes everyone look bad. A spoiler. I can be the spoiler.
Is a spoiler. Don Jargon used to call those guys stinkers. Yep.
And, a victory over Victor Davis is not to be taken lightly, man. People forget that this guy, Clobber Matisse, this guy, he's a bad man. So, no, I don't think I think styles make fights, and I think that Postal's style, the way he comes across, Joseph, he's hard for anybody. He's a formidable challenge for anybody.
Yep.
But
he's
if you
former two-title champion at 140 pounds, and he was the first to stop Lucas Matista within the distance.
Yeah.
His footwork alone, and his beautifully intelligent jab is enough to give anyone problems, minus not even counting the deceptive power he has in his right hand, right?
Yeah.
I think too many people are overreacting in Jose Ramirez's very close call with Victor Postal.
Yeah.
I think people are going to be very surprised how effective Jose Ramirez is in the ring against a real badass like Josh Taylor. Your final thoughts on this before we move? Your final thoughts before we move on the next item up for bid on The Price is Right.
Couldn't agree more, Doctor. Couldn't agree more. Next item.
Very good. I'll say this, and going back to Canelo Alvarez, I've just received a message. I don't know how accurate this is, but I just received a message that Canelo Alvarez has been offered by DAZN $15 million per fight, as well as stock in the company rather than his previous contractual amount of $35 million per outing. Does he take it?
Yes.
You think he finally puts this to bed and finally gets back in the ring and takes this offer?
Well, he's eventually going to take it, regardless. I mean, he's going to eventually run out of money because the guy spends money like crazy. In this environment, yes. You can't draw blood from a turnip. You cannot draw blood. The money's there or it isn't.
And I think DAZN, once their numbers...
This is not 2019.
That's right. And I think once their numbers start going back up, I think they will renegotiate and reward Canelo for actually choosing to work with these guys if he does indeed do the smart thing, right? Now, last item up for bid. I just had to interject that because I just saw that come up in my in my messenger, right? So, last item, man. Charlo twins, they just kicked off their Showtime pay-per-view promotional efforts, right? What are the chances of us seeing both Charlo twins lose in their very first opportunity on the pay-per-view stage? These are two very difficult fights. Sergiy Derevyanchenko is a guy with a deep amateur world-class pedigree, and this is his third title fight in just his 16th professional bout, taking Gennady Golovkin and Danny Jacobs the distance before him. And now, keep in mind, Ronnie, earlier on the show, guaranteed a knockout. Your thoughts on this, and do you think both guys fighting on the same card, do you think that's going to have an impact on either fighter's performance?
You know, they're going the first performance is going to affect the latter performance. I think that you're going to be looking at that. That's going to be in the mind. I don't think the first performance is not going to have an impact. Okay, but if things don't work out, the first Charlo fight, that could have an impact on the second Charlo.
Now, wait, Lee, hold on, man. I want you to touch on this because you mentioned something about this when this fight was first made. And I stated, well, Sergiy Derevyanchenko is viewed largely by critics, writers, boxing pundits, as by far Charlo's toughest test to date. And you mentioned something to me very interesting. I'd like you to expound on this. You said, you know, Larry Merchant once stated, don't give a fighter too much credit in loss. Would you like to expound on that?
Yeah, and I learned that. I mean, that is, so you find it in Razor Ruddock versus Mike Tyson example. There are these fighters that do a great job. They come up to the plate, and they lose. And, yeah, Larry Merchant was basically saying is, like, we've had this throughout boxing history. We've had these great and gallant challengers. They were good for that moment. Maybe they were up for the fight. Maybe they were supreme petition. Whatever, they were good for that moment, but then they just fade away. They were never truly up to par, okay? Yeah, so what Larry was saying was, hey, never – so this was after Tyson versus Ruddock, 1 and 2. So we had, you know, the Ruddock fight. Ruddock had made such a great account of himself. And me, so I'm in my late teens, early 20s. Ruddock is facing Lennox Lewis, and I'm thinking, Ruddock's going to kill this guy. Because Lennox Lewis has not fought anybody, and Razor Ruddock has fought Tyson. He's twice, and made a good account of it. You know, twice in losing. He's fought Bone Crusher Smith. He's fought all these guys, but this guy stood up to Tyson, and in shape Tyson at that. Not like the Tyson that fought Douglas. And he's like, don't ever judge a guy on his losses. And then, of course, Ruddock got knocked out in 2 by Lennox Lewis. So there is something to say about that. Is when I look at Derevyanchenko, he looks awesome, and I'm a fan. But, yeah, he lost to Triple G, lost to Danny Jacobs. how is that going to play out? Is he one of these guys that just steps up to the plate, does a really good job, but doesn't quite make it? Or is he the real champion, the real winner? We're going to see. A lot of times, Joseph, in boxing, you see these guys, they're really good. They really get amped up for these big fights, but they're just not quite there.
So you think Sergiy Derevyanchenko could be boxing's perpetual bridesmaid?
He could be. I'm not going to say I'm not going to bet on this fight, but he could be. He could be one of these guys that just gives these guys a hell of a run. He gives, he gets up to these fights, gives one or two, gives 2 or 3 opponents a hell of a run, but just can't win.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. If you had to put money on which Charlo brother stood the best chance of losing coming up short, which one would you choose? Charlo versus Derevyanchenko or Jermall versus Jason Rosario? A guy that looks a biscuit shy of 168. My goodness, he's a monster in the ring.
No, and I think that the chances are greater for fighting Derevyanchenko still because of the skills that he brings to the ring, the deep damage of pedigree, and the fact that he does everything so well. Not a terribly hard puncher, but a decent puncher. Not terribly fast, but certainly not slow. Not terribly defensive, but pretty good technique. He's got one of these things. He's got like a lot of weapons, and he's not overall this monstrous fighter, but he's got a lot of stuff. He's got a lot in his arsenal. So, still, I wouldn't be surprised if Derevyanchenko won. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But I'm not going to bet on the fight. I should have bet on the Povetkin fight, Povetkin versus Fight. That's the one I should have bet on.
Well, guys, if you think that I'm sorry, go ahead, as you were, Lee. My apologies, sir.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great fight. People have got to order this fight. It's going to be great. It's going to be amazing. And this is going to be a landscape in the middleweight division, Joseph. I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to it. I'm going to lean Derevyanchenko. Derevyanchenko will lead. I think that either he makes a late rally and wins by a split decision, or he KOs him late. But I'm not going to put any money on that because I'm not that confident.
Well, one thing, and this is a pick'em fight in my opinion, but one thing that Ronnie told me off air, right? And this is something that's been brought up to, I'm sure, Andre Rozier, right? His Derevyanchenko's trainer. Mm-hmm. That this guy gets, dropped early. He gets hurt early. He doesn't start fast enough. Either that or he starts too fast before his eyes get adjusted to the speed and punching power, right?
But look who he's
he's gotten floored in the first rounds of both Gennady Golovkin as well as Danny Jacobs. Ronnie Shields says that is going to be a huge factor in this fight. The fact that he comes out guns a-blazing before his eyes get completely adjusted to the speed and the movement. Your thoughts on Ronnie's, key to victory?
Well, unless they've got that some Triple G stuff or some Daniel Jacobs stuff, if Charlo's got that, then great. Being floored by Triple G is certainly nothing to be ashamed of, or Jacobs.
Or Danny Jacobs. No indictment there, brother.
But the problem is he got back up. That's the problem. The problem is Povetkin got back up. So, yeah, this guy might drop the first few. I'm not saying he's going to win the first. The problem is he gets up. You get back up, that's a problem. And then you fight harder. That's a problem. Look at Alexander Povetkin. So, and Triple G will tell you, this guy got back up. If he can fight back against Triple G, he can fight back against anybody. Anybody south of heavyweight, he can fight back against anybody. So, I'm leaning towards him. But again, there's so many other things. The pandemic, the layoff, the hunger issue, is he was motivated. There's so many things to take into consideration. You know, he's what, 35, 36 now? So many things to take into consideration. I'm leaning Derevyanchenko.
Indeed. I tell you what, I'm going to go with my boy Ronnie, and I'm going to lean towards Jermall Charlo in a decisive, resounding knockout of Sergiy Derevyanchenko. How do you like that, Cleveland?
Man, I'm going to bet money on that. A knockout?
Yeah. Man, well, maybe I'm a homer, brother, but I tell you what, we're at the end of the road, Lee. Would you like to give any parting shots to our listening audience, sir?
Hey, it's great. Tune in to us every week. Dr. Herron has got, and this guy is a magician of boxing. We're going to have something for you every week, several times a week. You know, favorite us, tune in to us, go to box.buzz, a.k.a. FightSaga.com, for all the latest 24/7 boxing news. Yeah, like, you know, we'll keep you fed, we'll keep you informed.
Guys, he's the editor-in-chief of FightSaga.com. Go check it out, guys. Thank you so much, Lee, for all of your expertise. Very insightful stuff. And guys, in case you missed any part of the show, it's going to be up on our YouTube page very shortly, within the next 15, 20 minutes. And guys, go subscribe, War Week Radio on YouTube.com. But that's going to just about do it. Guys, on behalf of Lee Cleveland, on behalf of the great Ronnie Shields, I'm Joseph Herron. You're listening to Fight Saga Radio.